Hi, Monday section. This is Julie, and we will be having modeling lecture together. This is one animation short. I would love to play it, but I find it difficult to record the sound, so I guess we'll just put it in the Discord group chat. And so let's get started with our lecture today, Modeling 1. So in this lecture, we will talk about what is like good topology and what is like the basic um, function in Maya and how we're going to build it. Okay, so let's get started. So here's some good examples of good topology. You can see that it has like very smooth flow, and there's like very Yes, it's very formatted, it has shape, and it's not like weird or something like that. And if you got bad topology, this is what it looks like. And further in the lecture, we'll explain why these are bad topology and why these are good topology. But just by looking at it, you can see like the shape is not smooth, and just look at this face over here. They have this like, it's not flat. There's a lot of like weird little shape over here, and especially this one, as you can see, and this one is like, there's just like a very big bump in the skeleton. And okay, so now we're gonna explain what is a good topology and what makes them good. So just to break it down and make it clear, and just like how are you gonna build like a mesh, or what is a mesh? So basically, the smaller units in Maya is vertices. And build out two vertices, you get an edge, and with four edges, you will get a face. And with six faces, you'll get a mesh. So basically, it's from a dot, line, shape, and it's U-cube. And this is for smaller units in Maya, which is the vertices. Okay, just to put this in mind. And there are a lot of type of 3D geometry representation in Maya, including meshes, NURBS, point clouds, voxel, and others. There's like a lot of, but just for this UC bug lecture, we will only be using meshes. And here's something that's extremely important, which is when you're building your model, please remember, you'll want to keep all of your model with like four side space, which is this quad mesh. Because having this quad mesh will make things a lot easier, and will give you a good edge flow and smooth. Just look at the face on the right. You can see that it's only all of it's four sides. There's no five, there's no six, it's four. And be very careful about floating vertices, because sometimes when you're trying to delete something and you didn't delete it entirely, they'll have one floating vertices, and it will just make it look very weird. And just as I said, we will only want quad meshes, which means that there's no n-gons, means that there's no things that's more than four sides. And let's talk about n-gons. Just as I say, here is quad mesh. This one is quad mesh. And these are n-gons. It's not good. We don't want these, because it will first make your life easier, a lot easier. And second, it will not give you like a weird shading. It will not just like bring it into like a very weird shape. And next, let's talk about edge flow. Edge flow basically means that how a model's edge moves across the mesh. And the reason why this is so important is first, it gives you like a very nice shape for the model. And second, it helps you animate better, because like you can track down those vertices. It's easier for you to see what is in what place, instead of, oh, there's a lot of different complicated things located on the left side of this picture. And how do you make a good edge flow? Edge flow, it should be formed in a continuous path. It's not like you just connected weird vertices from very weird dimension, if that makes sense. And next, let's talk about manifold geometry. And what is, so let's talk about examples of non-manifold geometry. So here's three cases, which are like first, three or more faces sharing one edge. And second is two or more faces sharing one single vertices but not edges. And the last one is like you have opposite side of the face. So let's talk about what is like clean geometry. Where's the beautiful geometry we're talking about? It's like this, connecting it by edge, clear connection by edge. And there's like open geometry, interface, angles. And non-manifold geometry are just like 3D meshes that cannot be unfolded into 2D surface with a normal point in the same direction. And let's talk about normals. Normals is a direction that a face in a model is facing, which are those like little green line are pointing to. So basically, if you have this like little green line pointing out, means that this is outside. And the opposite of those like green little line, these black parts are the inside. And you don't want them getting twisted, or you want to make sure that you got every outside and not just like some outside, some inside. It makes your model look a little bit twisted. And how do you double check whether your model is a manifold geometry? So first, as a very quick way is just to press 3, which will like turn like very sharp, your sharp models into these like very smooth ones. And as you can see, it looks completely normal in the sharp like mode, but it looks like a little bit like there's a very weird like curvy shape over here. That is not good. That means you have non-manifold geometry. And look, you can check the surface, check this line, and to delete, you can just simply delete like the problem area or like a floating vertices that you might have. So let's just sum it up. So what build a good topology? So first, you have a good edge flow. Look at this face, smooth. And you want to have manifold geometry. Those lines connected to line, not only connect to one vertices or floating around. And you want to have quad faces. Similar size, quad faces, only 4 sides, not 5 sides, no n-gons. So, let's talk about why these are bad topology after we talked about all of these. So, for the first face, this face, I guess, is like pretty obvious because it got some n-gons over here. They don't have good edge flow as we talk about. There's a lot of n-gons, and they didn't follow like the quad mesh that we required. And this one, as we talk about, there's no very clear edge flow, and it doesn't follow manifest geometry because obviously there's a lot of vertices connecting to other vertices and also edges like randomly connected to other places. And there's no edge flows, and they didn't follow like the quad mesh rule. And for this one, it's not quad shape. There's a lot of n-gons, like this one over here. There's no good edge flow. It's like random things connected to each other. Why you see here's like a weird vertices over here in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, so that's make them bad. And after you learn the basic rules of modeling, let's talk about how do you do those modeling. So let's just catch up a little bit on how to navigate Maya. So if you want to build something, for example, you want a cube or something, you want to call something out, then you just simply go to poly modeling and you call out these shape over here. If you want a cube, just press a cube. If you want like a sphere shape, just click it. And now you want to switch to different modes. You want to switch to edge mode, vertices. You just right click of your mouse and you can do it. And if you don't have a mouse, you just hold your tab for a very long time and you can just like pull it around to whatever mode you want. And let's talk about hotkey. Q, you select the thing. W, you move it up or down to translate it. E, you just rotate it. And R, you can make it larger, make it smaller. And if you want to pull something out of the surface, then it's Control or Command E is extrude. And if you want to zoom in particular, or do you want to focus on some particular shape, just press F, focus. And you can also tap spacebar with switch different views. This will be very important when you're doing your animation. And if you want to try to move to different camera, use a hold Alt and hold any mouse button you have. And if you hold Shift, you can select or select multiple objects or unselect. And now it's time to do some demo. And throughout the demo, we will show you how to use insert, add loop, multi-cut, merge to center, bridge, smooth mode, which is 3 we just talked about, model practices, deleting history, very important, very important, very important, and center pivot, which help you a lot. Okay, I'll just leave it to Ali for that one, and freezing, transformations, and grouping. Yes, and it's time for demo. Okay.
Alright guys, welcome to the demo section of this lecture. Here you can see what you would see when you open a new file on Maya. The center here is the viewport, you have the attribute editor, you have the toolbar, and then you have the outliner on the left hand side. First things first, let's talk about how you can change your view on your viewport. The easiest method is just by holding Alt and then left click and drag around to rotate your camera. And then you can move your camera by still holding Alt, um, holding down on the roller on your mouse and just kind of dragging it around. Now you're moving your camera around in that specific like plane that you've put your camera on, and then you want to rotate it again and you move it, all that fun stuff to get the angle that you want, right? If you scroll on your scroll, it zooms in, zooms out. I prefer doing that. But you can also right click and drag. It also zooms in and out. Um, a lot of options if you want to zoom in and out. You can also use this cube up on our top right here. Left, top, front, right. You can click on it. It says top. Rotate the block. Rotate the view. Go to the left. This is so much better than just like trying to manually find the right, like a few straight to the front, because I can't even do it. If you just click front, it just kind of shows you like a flat plane. You're looking at it at a 90-degree, right? Um, you could get like the edges, the corners, view, all around fun stuff. So let's add some to our viewport here. You have the preset kind of 3D things that you can choose. It's pretty easy. That's pretty much what we're gonna do throughout the whole course. Say we added a cube, right? On your attribute editor, you can adjust the weight, the width, the height, the depth, make it into a pillar, make it fat, make it into a rectangle, maybe like a bigger cube. You can just adjust this with your mouse to your keypad. 4 4 4 4. Boom, you have another cube, but it's bigger. Another thing that you guys would want to know about is the subdivision width, subdivision to width, height, and depth. What it does is it creates loops around of your cube. Say width, creates it there, height, depth, and then if you make a bunch of them kind of on the cube, you have a bunch of faces in your cube. And it doesn't even have to be like square subdivisions. You can have something that looks like this, some that look like that. Um, and yeah, so now we can, well, you guys might have already learned from the first lecture, as you know, you can adjust the edges, the faces. If you right click and hold drag face, you click face, you click any of these faces that you want, drag it out, drag it in. Maybe don't do that. make it bigger, uh, and now you created something to make it back, turn it back, and if you rotate it, you can rotate it, drag it out, do all these fun stuff with the face that you selected. But you noticed how these two edges are connected to each other, right? And you might wonder, how do I make this kind of pop out instead of dragging all the other faces out? And now that's the beauty of extrusions. Let me undo this because this one looks cooler than the other. So if you press Control E, that's me from a Mac, Windows, and if you guys use a Mac, it's probably Command E. Now we created an extrusion. You can see here it says Result Poly Extrude Face, and you want to make sure to kind of drag it out or do something with it. Otherwise, it'll create a non-manifold geometry. And again, you can still do a lot of fun stuff with this. Rotate it again back to normal. We can maybe don't rotate it that much. Rotate it this way, that way, scale it, make it bigger again. Whoa, you know, I don't know. It was like a camera recorder, a video recorder from the 1970s. Alright, so something you want to watch out about extrusions is if you extrude something and you like kind of leave it alone and you think to yourself, oh, it's just a face, everything's fine. No, it's not. Don't fool yourself. Make sure to always undo the extrusion as well. You'll know when it says undo poly extrude. Because if you don't, otherwise bad things will happen. Like, well, all of a sudden there's an edge there. There's extra edges. There's a face within a face. And now it's like weird. And it's like, this doesn't look right. This looks really ugly. So that's something that you need to watch out with extrusions. Make sure you see this undo poly extrude or just kind of like remember when you extruded and make sure to undo the extrusion as well. Alright, so something else that you guys probably learned from the first lecture is, okay, let me delete this. Make a new cube, make it fat, fat. And I'll say I want to make like edge loops, right? Where is it? I don't remember where it is. Mesh tools. You know, mesh tools, and then you click insert edge loop. And then you can go all this way and then you create some edge loops and all that stuff. And then it creates edges all around your cube, all around your object. And now you're not kind of restrained to the equal weights, this subdivision kind of loops that the standard cube gives you these. But and then you can do the usual of, you know, kind of changing things. Okay, make sure to kind of get out of this. Press Q. Kind of get out of this, gate W. And then now you're adjusting the edges. You don't really want to do this actually. Rotate it, scale it, all that fun stuff. So see, now you might you might want to know, why do we want to create edges around the object other than, you know, having like maybe what kind any kind of geometry that you want with for the cube. Is say is so I'm going to introduce you a new concept or new. Actually, it's not a new concept. So if you click 3, which is the smooth mode, it basically smoothens your object, and now it looks. And now you can see how the cube that we made kind of turns into kind of gets rounded. The edges, these vertical faces get rounded out like that, and they get rounded out like this, and it kind of turns into a lump. See if you make a new cube. Now let me drag this out right that, and now it turns into a sphere. Which arguably, if you have a sphere, it doesn't even look that different. And you can also turn this into smooth. It doesn't really look that different because, it's already a sphere. See if you want to make it, just find a cylinder, drag it out. Let me delete this actually. Cylinder, center that back, and then we want to smooth this out. It kind of looks like that, right? You can see the ribs around the cylinder caused by all these edges and like vertices. But if you have a cube, if you use a cube to make a cylinder, say drag this out, right? Say I want to like scale it, get long, make it a bit fatter, and then click 3 on this cube. Kind of made a ellipsis. So how you might wonder, how do we turn a cube into a cylinder? You use edge loops. My mesh tools up here, and you click on insert edge loop, and then you kind of like that, and now you have a cylinder, and it looks much better than the cylinder from here if you smoothed out the cylinder from the poly modeling one. Agree with me. But say we want a rounded cube. Add a cube, and then you add edge loops here, 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 there, down here, over here. Am I missing some? Then press 3. Then you've created a cube, and it's rounded. And it's not sharp anymore. I shoot myself. Alright, so now let's go back to object, it's kind of, what is it called? The not smooth mode. And let me add some edge loop right in the middle over here. And say, oh my god, I don't want a rounded cube anymore. How do I remove these? So you go back to edge, you click edge, select all the edges. You can double click on the edge right there. And then you think to yourself, if I could delete it, it'll be fine, right? No, it's not fine. Because your vertices are still left behind. So what you want to do, you want to make sure you want to do when you delete a whole edge is you want to click Control Delete, and then it'll delete everything that's associated with the edge. So that instead of just deleting and then now you're left with like, oh my god, what what is this? I have like an extra edge, and what happened here? now you don't have to worry about that because you deleted everything. Now you want to do that to all of the edges from here. Or maybe there's a better way to do it. And now we have only one loop that I created earlier with my edge loop. Create 2 more to be fun. And more, actually. Kind of want more. So now say you want to fill a hole that somehow miraculously happened during your modeling session. There's like several ways you can do this. So like select maybe this hole, like you can select this entire edge loop, you click mesh, fill hole, then it fills up the hole. But you notice that, hey, these didn't get translated. So what you can do from there is using the where multicut tool is, you can select 2 different vertices and then they'll connect each other and they'll make edges for you. Say, okay, well, maybe I didn't. Okay, so as you can see, it's a pretty powerful tool. You can just create a lot of things with it. You can make edges however you like. Maybe you don't specifically want to do this. Click enter. and then all of a sudden you're stuck with this odd kind of faces. It has its uses. But we want to kind of recreate the edges, the edge loops that we had before, right? So you want to do this, that, enter, this, where is it? That, enter, this, and then that, this, and then that. And now it's back. Drag it out, drag it in, and you can kind of see that nothing's wrong with it, right? There's no odd manifold geometry. So something that you could also like, some ways that you can kind of tell if something's wrong is if you click 3 and it looks weird. For example, remember what I mentioned about the extrusions? You extruded some and you left it alone, creates a face on the face. If you click 3, kind of see that's like there's a face there. There's an extra like um whatever this is. That's how you kind of figure out that there's an extra extrusion there. Just there you go. I don't know why that took so long. Okay, say you don't want to use a multi-cut tool, right? Because you have to combine a lot of edges. It's a lot of pain. Maybe you forgot where one edge connects to what edge in like a really complicated model. So what you might want to do instead is using the bridge tool. You collect these two edges, click here, or maybe mesh tool. I mean, edit mesh, bridge, and then it creates kind of a face between these two edges. And you want to and you can add more things here. If you add 3 divisions, apply. Okay, whatever. If you 3, okay, forgot I only did 2. 2, and then you can notice that because I did edge loops to create my loops, it's not equal to each other. And you'll know what I mean more when you kind of drag it out. You can kind of notice that it's only attached to these 2 edges right here. So what you can do to fix this issue is if you go to vertex mode, click this, click that. What is it called? Where is it? Edit mesh, and then it's called merge to center, and then it merged it. It's also this button right here. Click this, click that, merge to center, and now these two are connected to each other. And something that was really useful to me was here. Let me finish filling up these bridge, and then I just want 2, and then I'll do these 2 bridge. Why did it not show the prompt? Bridge 2. Alright, there you go. And if you click face, you drag this out, these 2 aren't even connected to each other, right? So there's like another thing that you can do if you don't want to like kind of connect all these vertices together. Let me just kind of drag this out so that it'll kind of match more with the shape that I've created. Alright, say you have a lot of these vertices, right? And you want to combine them. They're somewhat in the same space together, and you're like, maybe the application will know how to do that. Select all of these vertices, go to mesh tool, edit mesh. I always forget where anything is. Edit mesh, click merge, and then it'll prompt you, hey, what's the threshold between the 2 vertices that you want to connect? Just kind of increase that a bit, and you can see kind of how the vertices kind of merge together, and now voila, everything's been merged together. You can just double check by clicking 3. We have a sort of fat cube. Alright, so let's move on to kind of safekeeping, file keeping, and kind of the boring stuff. Not boring, it's pretty useful. So if we go to the back to attribute editor, click on the cube we've made, you can see there's a lot of like history that we've done here. It's a lot of tabs, like what we did, split it, close border, delete component, tweak it, merge, all of that. And the more complex your model is, the more history there is, right? So, and it'll cause a lot of problems later on. Say, say I go back to the polycube, and I increase the subdivisions. Wait, let me turn that back to the rough mode. And now it's all screwed up. And that's why a lot of it, that's how a way that we can avoid this like kind of issues of just kind of having like screwing up the our model is to delete the history. It'll just lock in the changes that you've made onto the model, and then that's where it is, right? So it'll be here, that one, the delete by type history. You click that, your model stays the same, but there's only three things again now. And now it's very useful, especially because if you have a complex model, you have a lot of changes, a lot of history, a lot of things you've done to the model. It can crash your Maya. You also want to make sure to keep saving your file, so if you do inevitably crash it, you won't lose any progress that you've done. And then the next one that I have for you is, say I want to, like, like this, extrude it like that. Kind of want to make it smaller. Extrude this, choose this, extrude that. I don't even know. It's a soap bottle. So you want it to stand up because the soap bottle has to stand up vertically. So you rotate it. Oh wow, ignore that. So you rotate it, and you can kind of like look at here. Maybe I want to rotate it -90 so that it's like fully at a right angle. Kind of want to move it up a bit. I can transform it. Jesus Christ. I can transform it elsewhere. Maybe scale it bigger, fatter, and say like, hey, like I like this position. Imagine there's a sink here. I like the position. I want to log it in so that that's where the 000 is. What you do is you click on this button right here. It's called the freeze transformations. Select an object, select the object, and you click it. And you can notice how all of these turn into 000, right? And this will be so much useful for when you're animating and you're setting up your environment. If you freeze your transformation, it'll lock the position of your model to be right there. And when you reference it, and then you say you want to like scale it up, left, right, down, um, and it won't screw up the whole dimensions of the object. And yeah, basically freezing the transformation just kind of resets the coordinate system. So like this is gonna be the new origin, this is gonna be the new scale, it's gonna be the new rotate. And remember to always delete your history, guys. And there's another important thing that you want to make sure that you do, is say let's make a sink, why don't we? Make it bigger, make it like that. It's gonna be a very rudimentary sink. Um, um, uh, uh, okay, there we go. Want my soap bottle there. So I want to make this one kind of longer, right? I want to make a faucet. Pull it up. Put it somewhere in the center right here. Ooh, I'm on the bottom. I just realized that. Oh well, it'll do fine. There. Pull this thing up. Go back to sorry, face. Lift it up. Extrude. There. Extrude. Over. Oh, what did I do? Extrude. Then pull it out. a wonderful faucet, isn't it? Move it up. Let's make it rest on the sink. Let's make it dip it down. So what you want to do is, all right, let's make the basin of this. And if we click, I keep forgetting where anything is. Insert edge loop. Make the thing here, there. Sync right there. Sync right here. Make this kind of like bigger actually. Okay. Edge loop always rage baits me. Edge. Alright. I'm gonna go face. This one too. This one and this one. Extrude. Drag it. Okay. This. Pull it down a bit more. Alright. And then I can just extrude this. And then extrude it in. There we go. We have made a basin. Made a very rudimentary sink. And I would say you want to like move it around, right? But if you move it around, you have to like click all of these and then move it here, there. Oh, move it like this, kind of. Let's say I wanna group this together, right? Let me just edit and then ungroup. All right, and I want to group all of these together. Control G, and I kind of wanna. And you notice how if I rotate this, it rotates kind of on this weird like shape. Um, Instead of around this center point that maybe I want to rotate it like that. I didn't realize that the faucet was still poking out. Um, so what you can do instead is if you click this button right here, it's called the pivot to center pivot. It resets the pivot to the center of everything. And now if you rotate it, it'll rotate it where you'd normally expect it to rotate, right? It just centers it. You can also manual do it if you click D. Maybe I want to change it relative to the soap for some forsaken reason. Now you've done it. And if you rotate it, we're currently rotating it around the soap. And that's pretty much a lot of how you can like sort your things. And you learn a lot more from the labs. Rotate it all. Maybe I want like a crooked sink. And remember, again, freeze transformations. Very important you do this. Center my private. All of that very fun stuff. Again, make sure to not have like crazy manifold geometries, and you can kind of figure that out from your smooth mode. See, maybe this is not necessarily the best model to smooth out since it'll look like this. um, but a lot of times you want to smooth it out if you want specifically rounded corners, rounded edges. You want to make sure to know how to do that with edge loops, how to keep things kind of not curved with the edge loops, and then when you click 3, that would smooth it out. I don't know if you can sell this here. I can also kind of show, right? If I add an edge loop here, it kind of creates this, like creates kind of like more of an angle on the bottom. So I want more square basin, and I can just kind of add the edges. Voila! Add a little thing here too, and then you've created pretty much a faucet, a very big sink. And yeah, that should be it for the demo. Just remember that if you click three and there's like things jutting out, black colored faces, you don't want that. That's non-manifold geometry. For example, say I delete this. Wow, you can see kind of it says black, right? That's like a reverse normal, and you don't want this. You don't want to be able to see this in your in your model. So try to avoid that if you can. Practice good topology, and yeah, that will be all for the demo.
Okay, after the demo, let's recap a little bit about the modeling tools that we just learned. So first is insert edge loop and multi-cup tools, which is in the mesh tool. You can use to create a lot of edge loop if you want. It will make your life a lot easier. And for multi-cut, you can hold control to make an edge loop and shift to snap. Second, smooth mode, press 3, we just talked about it. Useful style tracking for non-manifold geometry. And merge to thing, merge to center, or merge, basically bridge. It's under edit mesh, which you can connect between edges or faces. And that's review some very important button that we have, which the first one is delete history. It's extremely important to delete history, because if you do not delete history, it will just come out. It can just be a little bit frustrating after all. It would just like create a lot of like problems in the future. So just please delete your history, center the pivot. If the pivot point is at a very weird place, you can just call it back to where it belongs. Freezing transformation, it's a very good tool for you to put to put something at to connect to sorry to put something at where they used to be, or it's like a beginning at the very beginning, and you could group one. We can group a lot of items together, so it's making it easier for you to move something. And yes, next. Let's talk about what is a good practice. Just like a lot of like good skills to have doing modeling. So first is definitely organization. Keep your outliner very clean, organized, and please name it. Because when you're doing your group animation, there's gonna be a lot of different items in your Maya in your workspace, and you don't want it to be like item A, item B, item C, and then it will just make it very hard to track down. So please do not do that. And second is when deleting edges, you control plus delete. Over regularly delete because it will just make it way better, make it way easier, and prevent you from lefting out some like little edge vertices. And the last one, very important, delete history and make and freeze transformation to keep Maya very happy. Please do not delete, please do delete history. It's really important, as I just say a lot of times. And general modeling advice, focus on maintaining good edge flow. You don't want to have a bumpy face, or you don't really want to have a very messy edge flow, which like make the shape look a little bit curvy, and you don't want that. And last one is check your model for holes. You can use mesh and to clean up. When extruding, the last one, when extruding, move faces after extrude, because otherwise it would be very hard to find. Just extrude, you can turn, and you can make it into different shape. And you also use Ctrl Z twice to get rid of the extrusions. Because sometimes when you do that, you'll get two vertices connecting to each other, which they're not fully connected. And then later on, when you try to pull or when you try to use smooth mode, it will become very weird. So do Ctrl Z twice. And bad. We don't want this. We don't want these to happen. So first, it's not moving extrusions. You move it, you create it, you extrude something and you didn't move it, which is like there's some basically just like two faces overlaying each other, which makes it very. Do have a lot of trouble after that. So please move it, and do not have floating vertices. Some of floating vertices is the reason why you have like a very bad edge flows, because it will just like make a very bumpy surface for you, but you don't even know it. And third is faces with more than 4 vertices, which is n-gons. We just talk about, we do not like that. We want to basically keep everything in a quad mesh. And last one is pretty self-explanatory. You don't want a holes in your mesh. So, what if there's a hole in a gap? How do we solve these problems? First, you can use bridge tools that we just talked about in demo. And second one, you can merge extra vertices by using merge. What should you look for when cleaning edge flow? So double click your edges and you just see a nice loop, which is like gonna be blue, goes around entire model, and you do not want to see incomplete loops or just like bumpy shape. And how do you find double extrusions or holes? Simple. We just press hotkey 3, it turns to smooth mode, and see whether your entire shape is smooth or not. And remember to set your project. Set your project. Set your project. It's really important. And if you don't set your project, you end up spending all of our week doing UC bug 24/7, and you do not want that. You do not want that. Trust, you do not want that. So please set your project. So let's talk about how to set your project. Before opening a file, you want to click over here and create a project file, and click over here after you created a project, a workspace. Just click files and set project. Yeah, okay. So next, let's talk about homework for the week. Individual, there's a basic modeling toilet lab, and we will be checking whether you delete the history and use freeze transformations or not. So please do that. And for a group, please get started to do a modeling props and weekly progress report. And everyone have to do that. Please submit something. Yeah. And this is our office hour. Oops, oopsie. Okay, this is the office hours. Please join, or you can use Discord. And let's do attendance. The keyword is manifold. And yeah, that's it. That's just go talk to your group, I guess. Thank you very much for looking at a lecture.